What is up? Welcome to the Hypothetical Comedy Podcast. I am Funky Sam Medina,
And I am Athena Rodriguez.
and we are here with comedian Tut. What's up, Tut?
Woo.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Pretty good. How you doing?
Doing well here in San Jose,
Excellent. It's
Great.
raining during the
in
summer.
my house. Yeah, making
Nice.
sure I don't go out in the rain. So
That's good. That's good. Glad
yeah,
everything's how's everything in San Jose going right now? Pretty good, besides the rain?
yes, yeah, things are going pretty well. I kind of, I mean, obviously I live down here and I go out, to all the mics down here a lot. So it's enough to keep me busy and everything. So that's pretty cool and
Great.
Hell
having
yeah.
fun. Yeah.
So Tut, the first thing I want to know about you is where you got the name Tut.
Yeah.
I knew you were going to ask that question. I knew it. Yeah. You'll never believe it, actually. Well, you'll believe it. Yeah. I mean, you need to believe it because I'm telling you the truth. Yeah.
I might believe
But
it, but I know I don't
yeah,
think you lie.
I know. I'm not. No, I'm not. Yeah. I'm not a liar. Actually, I got my nickname in college. My very first uh, evening of college, a bunch of guys that lived on we had just met and we lived, on the same floor, and we all went out to a fast food restaurant, and for some reason, I guess I ate faster than all of them, and
Oh,
so
wow.
and I mean I ate just as much, but I ate faster, and so I was done eating, and then I kind of sat back with my arms crossed, staring up and my roommate who I just met says, "Hey, he looks like King Tut," and it stuck from then on. So this is 1977. That's where I
Wow.
got my nickname. And
Wow.
in college, other than my professors, nobody knew who the other. Everybody called me Tut. Nobody knew my first real name. And I don't know if you
Wow.
guys even know. Well, you guys know my first real name, but
Yeah, only
they,
because Facebook tells on you.
yeah. But yeah, so that's stuck. And it was funny because at the time, a couple things were going on that my you know my I lived in a college dorm and I was just like one of the guys, and they would always sometimes they would give me shit about stuff, and one time there was a song out called Disco Tut by Rick Dees. I don't know if you ever heard of it.
No, I haven't.
Yeah, you should check it out. It's pretty funny. But they did a remake of it, but making it Disco Tut, and and it was funny because the the beginning of the words were because I remember this and I wrote it down because I wanted to make sure I had it right. But um, the words that they inserted was uh, he was sitting on the john the other night. His feet didn't reach the ground. He didn't feel quite right. Disco Tut. That was the name of the song, and it went on and on, about me.
Wow.
And what was funny is that you know for your listeners, they may not know, but I am a dwarf, and so I was one of two dwarfs on campus uh, at the time, and I a lot of people they just knew me, and I knew a lot of people that were at the radio station and at the campus radio station, and one night they actually played the revised version
Oh,
of Disco Duck as
wow.
Disco Tut,
Wow.
and it went back then. I mean, I don't think anything went viral back then, but it went viral, you know,
Wow.
like all over. So just people knew me, and and then I was like, yeah, I went to school for government, so I was involved with student government and stuff like that, and so I ran for like an office, to represent my school, my school government that I went to. I was a poli sci major, and so I didn't need to have any signs. I just cut out letters TUT, and I had them, you know, taped up on all the windows on the dorms throughout the whole campus. It was like tut 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 tut, tut all over, and
You didn't even
People
need
knew.
So cool.
you didn't even need a slogan. You were just Tut.
Tut, 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 tut. Yeah, that was kind of was. And
Hey,
then
does this song still exist? Like, do you have this song still?
I don't know. I
Oh,
mean,
because
it
Wow.
that
was
would be
it
super
was on
rad
a
for comedy. Like
yeah.
to come out to that
It was on
song.
a cassette. It was on a cassette tape. That's how we're
Yeah.
talking 19. I don't know if you know what those are. I think you might,
Yeah.
but
Oh yeah, no, I
Yeah.
grew up on cassette tapes. I don't
yeah,
know
I
what eight
know.
tracks are.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I knew that
I mean,
too. Yeah.
I do, but I never
Yeah.
actually had one.
Yeah. I didn't either. I never had an 8-track player, but
Same,
I knew what
same.
they were. But then yeah, cassettes were the thing, and
Yeah, absolutely.
probably if I even knew where it was, the tape would probably be disintegrated. So,
Yeah,
but it was just pretty funny how
that's
they were
great.
good. I mean, it was like they kind of nailed me, and I was thinking, when I was looking at the words, like, God damn, every time I took a shit, they knew it was me. Because it was like multiple stalls. So I was pretty upset about that for a while, but yeah, no, it was fun. And then the following year, Steve Martin came out with his song, King Tut version, and that played all over the place, and
Iconic.
like all the times at all the campus parties and stuff, that I'd go to, you know, they would be playing it, and then people would start yelling out "tut tut tut," kind of thing, and that's what made me popular. I was like, I was, for lack of a better word, I was a celebrity on campus without doing much.
That's
So
awesome. That's really cool.
yeah, so that's how my nickname came to be, and so fast forward, when I decided to do comedy, I said, my real name's Craig, and I said, Craig's so freaking boring and like kind of wokey looking, kind of sounding, and I just said, I gotta have my own thing, and so then I said, okay, I'm Tut, that's it. And a lot of people say, King Tut, and I said, no, I'm Tut without the royalty, that's my, you know, I don't put myself, you're not my servants or anybody else, or my whatever you call those people that are under my serfdom people. No, it's just Tut. So, and
I
it
like
works
it.
because I think because and then it got my joke. That there's only one Tut in comedy. Tut in comedy. So that's
Oh
my
yeah,
catchphrase.
yeah.
But
That's your brand, Tutton Comedy.
that's my brand. Yeah, yeah. So that's where that came from. So
That's awesome.
Hell yeah.
Hell
yeah.
yeah.
You
And
lucked
you're
out on your nickname, man.
Yeah, I lucked out. Yeah, yeah. And it's funny, it's like to this day, like all my college buddies, they still call, it's always Tut, hey Tut, how's it
Aw,
going and stuff, and
I
so
love it.
it's fun. Yeah,
that's really cool. Where did you grow up, Tut?
I grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Wow.
Yeah,
Very
I was
nice.
yeah, I was a Steeler fan. I still am.
Oh,
Yikes.
boo.
But wait a minute, no, wait a minute though. Yeah, so
Well, you said
basically,
was.
I, I well, I am a Steeler fan,
Okay,
but
okay.
then
Oh.
for a time though, I was a Niner fan. When I first came to
Okay.
California, because the Steelers sucked. I, I was a Niner fan, and I caught shit whenever I'd go back to Pittsburgh wearing my 49er hat. So
Oh, dang.
then the Steelers got good with that Roethlisberger guy. I said, okay, Franco
Um,
Harris. I don't know, you know who Franco Harris is?
no, I don't think so.
Okay, you need to Google him. He was a
Okay.
running back on the Steelers in the 70s, early 70s, and he made that catch. It's called the Immaculate Reception against the Raiders
Good.
in the playoff game. And Terry Bradshaw, Terry Bradshaw was my idol growing up. And you know him. He was the quarterback for the
Yeah.
Steelers.
No,
Yeah.
I know Terry Bradshaw. I know him
Yeah,
as a commentary though, a
yeah.
football
No, I knew him
analyst.
as a player,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
I got to meet him once. It was pretty
Wow.
cool. Yeah, my father was in the Pittsburgh Symphony Orchestra, and
Oh
they played a
wow.
concert at Three Rivers Stadium. And it was right during the summer practice of for the Steelers, and so my father took. I was like maybe 9 or 10, my father took me to the rehearsal, and so they're, the Steelers are playing, practicing on the field, and the symphony is practicing on a stage to the side of the field, and I'm sitting in the dugout, like in a dugout in the dugout, and Terry Bradshaw comes walking by, sits down next to me, starts talking to me, asks me like, "Why are you here?" And I just tell him about my father and this and that, and it was pretty cool. So
That's
I can say
awesome.
I met my idol, one of my idols. Yeah,
That is rad.
Wow,
it's
Terry
pretty cool.
Bradshaw.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So yeah, so I grew up in Pittsburgh, and then went to college. The college I went to was the American University in Washington D.C. Because I wanted to be a political science major. I knew that from the tenth grade. I knew that that's the school I want to go to, and that's the major I'm going to have, and going to school for politics. In Washington D.C. is like the best
Oh
place to
yeah,
go.
I bet it
They,
is. I never
and
thought of it like that, but I bet it is. I bet you're right.
yeah, it was pretty cool. And I mean, because like a lot of times I have to go to class. Class assignments would you have to go to hear Congress, the meetings, and write up reports and this and that about it and all the politics and stuff. And so that was pretty cool. And then so I went there, and then I also was able to get a really cool job from my second semester freshman year. I worked as an intern for my local congressman from Pittsburgh, and
Oh,
Wow.
for
that's
the
really
last
awesome.
yeah for 3.5 years I worked for I worked on Capitol Hill. I got to be involved, all the politicians and all of that stuff, and uh, I got to kind of see behind the scenes stuff. It was pretty cool. And Um, at the time, there was this thing called the Iran Contra scam with Ollie North giving weapons the Contra people in Iran, and they had my boss was chair of a committee, to kind of go over all this stuff. It turns out that like half the committee was on the take. It was they called
Oh
it the abs
wow.
or what do you call it? Yeah, it was pretty cool because I was, I'd be sitting on the side, minding my own business, but listening, what was happening, and
Wow.
it was pretty awesome, and so I enjoyed that. So I did that. I went there, and then I was going to work. I was planning to work for that congressman once I retired. I mean, excuse me, once I graduated, and then I went to go work for him, and he said he's retiring. He had been there like for 30 years or something like that, and so then his son ran for his seat and lost. So I
Whoa.
couldn't. I said, okay, I'm not going to be working here. So
Oh my
then
gosh.
yeah,
Wow.
it, it's all the politics stuff.
Yeah,
Oh
I mean,
yeah, of course.
politics. I'm sure politics is all
Dang.
politics.
Yeah, it is for sure. Yeah. So then I had a friend of the family's. He was the state legislator in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, which is the state capital. From Pennsylvania. He was the state legislator in my area, and my mom knew him a little bit, and he knew me a little through my family, and he would come to visit Washington when I was in school, and during the summer, and we'd have lunch together, you know, each time he came with his family. And so I contacted him. I said, hey, you know of any jobs in Harrisburg, the state capital? And he said, I'll get back to you. 2 weeks later, he says, I got you a job. I said,
Oh,
oh, that's
wow.
great. Who am I going to be working for? He says, you're going to be working for me. I said, oh, okay.
Oh,
So
wow, that worked
Yay.
out.
it worked out. It worked out pretty cool, but it was good. It was good.
I mean, it
It was
wasn't
good.
Capitol Hill, but it was still like your
Yeah.
place, your people.
Yeah, yeah. So I did that for 5 years, and then but literally after about 3 or 4 months after I started working there, that's when I met my wife.
Wow.
I met her. Yeah, I I belong to Little People of America, and it's a national organization of little people, and they have regional conferences, and they had a regional conference in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, which is the battlefields of Gettysburg, right? That's where I met my wife, and it was my first conference that I went to, and she was from New York, and that's where I and by the way, my whole family we're all dwarfs. There's four there were four of us,
Oh
and
wow,
my
that's
father,
interesting.
both my father and my mother and my sister. I have a younger sister who's 6 years younger than me, and so the four of us we're all dwarfs,
I didn't know
and
that. Wow.
we had just became members of this little people group, and so I said, okay, I'm gonna go to my first regional conference, and with the thought, okay, I'm gonna meet somebody, right? But I had no expectations of what was going to happen, and it was probably the best day of my life when I went there, because that's when I met my wife,
Oh,
and
I love it.
it was, yeah, and I met her, like there was like a reception kind of thing at the beginning, and she had been in the organization for maybe like a year or two at the most, and I met her at this reception, and she actually told me, "Here, come sit down next to me." And I said, "Okay, I'll sit down." I was talking to them. Literally, I would say within about maybe 4 hours later, we knew we were going to be together for the rest of our lives.
Oh my
That's
goodness.
how it happened. I mean, it was just that magical. I had a fairy tale um, meeting and life. I mean, it was pretty amazing. So
That's beautiful.
yeah, and she lived in New York City, and we dated for long distance, for a year, not quite a year, and we were always on the phone, like back in the day. Okay, this is in 19 I met her in 1981. We had
Oh
I had like $350 phone bills
Oh
back
my
then. You
wow.
know,
gosh.
Long
in
distance.
fact,
Long distance was a big deal.
yeah, I know. And in Pennsylvania, I'm working for a my starting salary was like $13,000. Like how it was like I barely had enough food to eat. I was always paying phone bills, or I would take the train or the bus, to New York on weekends, and she would come visit me, occasionally too. But yeah, so did
Wow.
that for a year, and then we got married, and we actually got married in the state capitol building,
Oh,
which was
that's
pretty
that's
cool.
awesome.
'Cause-
Yeah.
And if you Google the Harrisburg, state capitol, and look at the Capitol dome, it's one of the nice. I mean, it's beautiful. And the thing is, I got it for free because I
Wow.
had connection. I knew, because one of my coworkers had gotten married there like a couple years before. I said, "How do you get that place? How do you get sign up, or reserve it?" He says, "Oh, you just call the person in general services, and they can they'll set you up." And I happen to know the person. I said, "Oh, hey, I want to get married in the state capitol, over Labor Day weekend. Hey, can you arrange this?" He says, "Sure." And
That's
so that's
cool.
that's what they did,
That's
and
awesome.
they set up chairs for us, and they closed it off for us for an hour. I mean, from the public, and it was beautiful. It was wonderful.
That's
So
incredible. That's awesome.
yeah.
And if that guy hadn't retired, you may not be doing all this stuff at that point. It may be a different
Oh
Yeah.
life.
yeah,
You might be on Capitol
yeah,
Hill still.
yeah. Well, I wouldn't. I know I wouldn't. I would not be out here in California, because the reason why I came to California was for my wife to go to law school at Santa Clara.
Okay. Okay. What
Wow.
year did
She
you
was
move to California with your wife?
in 1986.
Okay, so about 5 years into the marriage.
Yeah, 5 years in the marriage. She had got accepted the year before, and she had been to LA, but we hadn't been to the Bay Area, and we have friends in the Little People chapter in the Bay Area. And so we
Okay,
say, hey, that's
nice.
where and so we said, let's go out and check out the school, and if we like it, we'll do it. And she, we liked it, and she, um, actually, let me backtrack. What happened was she got a letter from Santa Clara School of Law saying, please apply. Because the other thing is, my wife was Taiwanese, and so in those days, when you do tests and whatever, what do you call it, the data, the racial data, I can't remember what you call it, but
like the
you know,
census.
yeah, yeah. All they ask is, are you a minority or not? That's
Okay,
kind
yeah.
of. And she said she checked she was a minority. She did really well on the LSATs, which are the entry exam kind of thing. And she got all these letters from all over the place, and she would just throw them out. And then one came in for Santa Clara, and I said, oh, that's the Bay Area. I picked it out of the garbage, literally, out of the trash. I opened it up and said, hey, it says here that um, you would be eligible for scholarships, um, and they were waiving the application fee. And so I said, hey, let's think
Wow.
about it. So we actually came, for vacation. We came out, checked out the school, checked out the area, and she liked it, we liked it. So we were ready, to come out. And then, but in the meantime, we owned a house back then in Harrisburg, and we couldn't. It was a bad economy. This is 1985. It was really bad. And once winter comes around, you don't sell houses after that,
Wow.
because of snow. Pretty much, we couldn't sell our house. It was a nice house. It's just people weren't buying, and so she got a deferment for a year, and then soon as March came around, we got a realtor and sold the place, and that's when we came out. So I've been
Hey.
out here since '86 with her, and I had no job when I came out here. So
Wow,
Whoa.
that's a brave
yeah,
move.
That's a
That's a
leap.
that's a
we
leap
were
of faith.
I was eligible for food stamps and stuff like that, but I didn't. We had saved some money and stuff. And then it just so happens that through my little people group, one of the members' sister had just was leaving a nonprofit agency for another job, and it was a kind of excuse me, like an advocacy type of job for people with disabilities, for mental health disabilities, and I was kind of interested in that, and so they told me about it, and they actually gave my resume to the agency, and I got a call from this agency, which I didn't even know who they were at first, and they said we'd like to interview you. I said okay, and I went in and I got the job. I said okay, I need a job, so that's what I did.
Wow, that's crazy because your wife was seeked out by the school and you were seeked out by these people, and
Yeah.
you guys are both meant to be there in California at this time.
Oh yeah. It was. Oh, because let me tell you. I mean, not to knock Harrisburg that much, but it it's a real blue collar town. I mean, uh, a lot of uneducated people. And by the way, my wife was 3'8". I'm 4'8", and we used to get believe it or not, in the day we used to get harassed going to the grocery store. That's how bad it was there.
Wow.
Oh, that's so
And
nice.
um, you know, and then I remember when we went to we were getting ready to move out, and we had to sell a bunch of our stuff, and we went to a flea market to sell some stuff. And this one old guy came up to our table, looked at both of us, and he calls his wife over and says, "Hey, look here, we have the I'm going to use the bad word, but we have a couple midgets over here. Let's see what they have."
Oh my
And I was like, dude, I didn't say dude back east. I said bro. I said bro. I said, I mean, he's an old white dude, but I called him bro. And I said, bro, like get away from it. My stuff, our stuff is not for sale for you. Just get out of here. And it was that kind of things that we had to put up. We had, really really great neighbors. We had some really good friends. We had a lot of, friends from our little people group there. But we just said we don't want to grow old in Harrisburg.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's why that further motivated us to come out to California.
Was it different in California as far as people
Oh
being rude
yeah,
and harassing?
you be. I mean, it was a night and day.
Wow.
What was funny was like back east there, in Harrisburg. If I would be walking down the street and some young people or whatever, would be passing me by the other direction, coming the other way, I would almost anticipate that they would say something
Oh
to me.
man.
And
Like
here,
it's almost guaranteed.
Yeah, right. And then,
Wow.
like, you know, walking to San Francisco or San Jose, I'd be walking by people and I'd be like, okay, nothing. You know, it's like, hey, they would say hi, how are
Yeah,
you?
hello. You'll get occasional hello.
Yeah, hello, a nice, yeah. And so, yeah, we never, ever, ever regretted coming to California. I mean, we've gone back, you know, because my parents lived there for while they were alive in
Yeah.
Pittsburgh, so we used to go there, you know, 2 or 3 times a year. But in my, you know, I have a best friend from nursery school that that still lives there, and so I would, when we go back, you know, we'd stay at his house, so
Oh,
it
that's
was
cool.
convenient.
That is
Yeah,
really cool. Yeah.
yeah. So, but anyways, that's how I got to California.
Wow, that's amazing.
I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued
Yeah.
to find out how comedy comes into the
Yeah,
picture.
how did you start like just
Okay.
being a fan of
Okay.
comedy?
Well, I mean, I always thought I had a good sense of humor, and I think I got it from my father. But you know, and I liked all the old school comedians, Carlin, Pryor. I mean, I'm an old guy, and the thing is, I didn't really pay much attention to stuff, you know, comedy and you know, following it a lot, and I really didn't, you know, get into it till literally like 15 years later, um, or wait, 11 years later. 11 years later. No, maybe my math is bad. I'm bad at math. A long time later. Uh,
There we go.
yeah, because I mean, this might sound really weird to you, but I literally, and cause I wrote it down. I was thinking of my history about comedy. In 1997, I had a dream that I was a comedian
Wow.
and that I was on stage. So I don't know where it was or whatever. I don't remember any of my of the set or whatever. But I know I was killing it, and
That's cool.
and I was like, and then I woke up and I remember, you know, I remember like the good feeling I had. I was like, wow, that was pretty cool. You know, I was on stage as a comedian, killing it. So I said, I wonder if that's something I might want to try to do. And I didn't say anything to anybody for maybe you know, a few months, and I just started like writing stuff, writing, you know, things, funny things that came to my head. And in the meantime, um, I was a big fan of the David Letterman show,
Mm.
and he would always have the top 10 list of, you know, of funny things, you know, about different topics. And
Yeah.
so I started writing my own top 10 types of things. And then I thought, yeah, back in the day there, I said, I'm going to send it to him. So I would fax, I would write top 10 lists and I would fax them to his show and see if
Wow.
Wow.
I could get some, you know, some feedback or, you know, get some, you know, some response. Never got any response, but it kind of got me going, you know, in terms
Yeah.
of,
Got the wheels moving, yeah.
I got the wheels moving and so I you know, because I thought it was, my stuff was pretty funny, and I would share it with my coworkers at work, and they thought it was funny. You know, it was like, and so then fast forward the following year, every year my little people group, we have a national conference. You know, in different parts of the, you know, different, each year it's a different place in the country.
Wow.
And in 1997 it was, excuse me, in 1998 it was in Portland, Oregon. And every year at the conference they always have a talent show. And so I, without telling my wife, I signed up for the talent show to do stand-up comedy.
Oh wow. For your first
Yeah,
time ever?
my first time ever. Yeah. And what's
Wow.
funny is I even like, you know, at work I you know, I had access to a computer and copy machine. So I even made up flyers like, you know, Tut's, you know, premiere comedy, you know, show, you know, and stuff like that. And I posted it at the conference, like, you know, the day of the conference, and or in the late afternoon. But I told my wife in the morning because she wanted to go do something in the afternoon, like early afternoon, and that was the exact same time where the rehearsal for the talent show was being held, and you had to be at the rehearsal in order to be on the show. So I said, oh, we can't go to where you want to go. And she said, why not? I said, well, I'm going to be on the talent show. And, you guys know I'm a musician as well.
Mhm.
And she told me, well, you didn't bring your horn, so what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to do stand-up comedy. And she just like, she went through the roof. It was like, what?
Wow.
It was pretty funny. It was pretty funny. And she goes, oh God, and she was shaking her head. I said, trust me, I think I can do this. I was pretty stoked about it. And so, I went to the rehearsal, and I just did a mic check, and I did one joke about how, you know, how I need, mountain gear to climb up to the top shelf to reach my sugar frosted flakes. That was my one joke, and then and she was just like shaking her head, oh God. But people were laughing, and so
It's relatable. I mean, you're at a little people's conference.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, I had some good stuff, there. And so then I do the talent show, and there's 800 people in the audience. Now, mind you, it's a PG. I mean, there's a lot of, there's kids there too, but there's 800 people in there. And that's the first time I actually stood up in front of 800 people.
Wow.
And
That is
and
so brave. That is crazy.
I don't know. I do things backwards for some reason. I don't know why I do that. But yeah, so I did that, and I had like one kicker joke that was like that was gonna get everything going, and I was talking about it's just such a great to be there at this conference. There's a lot of camaraderie and everything, and a lot of people are hooking up and then all this and that, stuff. I mean, in a nice way, hook up, kind of,
In a
me,
family friendly way. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, family friendly way, yeah.
Yeah, they're doing
And
the
I said,
no
besides,
stuff.
yeah, and then I said, besides, it's the only place where you can have a big butt and still have a figure, and and because a lot of us have big butts, and we all could give Kim Kardashian a run for her money at the nowadays, but and everybody just thought that was funny. The guy that was the founder of it's called Little People of America. He's an actor. He was an actor named Billy Barty. I don't know if you ever heard of him. You should Google him. He was in vaudeville, and he's been in all sorts of movies and stuff. He came up to me afterward and said that was the best dwarf joke he ever heard. And I said, okay, I'm good. And then after that, I didn't do it. I just never I didn't go to too many conferences, and I just never didn't do it for a while. And so what happened was, but after that moment, I kind of considered myself to be a comedian. And so, how we live our lives, even our private lives, we live like comedians, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So that's the way I live. I mean, I was always, cracking up stuff at work, and a couple of times I got in trouble for at staff meetings, like, and things like that. My one accomplishment at work about my comedy was I literally did make one of my coworkers pee her pants. It was so funny. I was like, I mean, I peed my pants too almost too, but it was just so funny. It was, I can't remember what it was I said, but it was just, that's just the way I was. And that's pretty much how, from that time on, how I kind of lived my life, just, looking at the funnier side of everything that's possible. Yeah.
Hell
So,
yeah.
yeah. So then, so where was I? All of a sudden I got lost. Senior moment. Oh.
You didn't do you only did comedy one time and then you
Oh
stopped.
yeah. So then, part of my job, I ended up working for San Mateo County for over 30 years. I was their staff to their Commission on Disabilities,
Oh,
and every year they would have like an annual awards dinner called the People Who Care Awards Dinner, where they would give awards to people in the community who have made a difference, for people with disabilities. And it was my job to coordinate that whole event. It's like, like 300, 400 people at the event. And, it was like planning a wedding every year because I have to come up with entertainment and everything like that.
Wow.
And so, so the one year I said, let's get some comedians with disabilities, And so I didn't know too many. I just happened. I mean, then I think the internet was just, was just kind of coming on. So I looked up a couple of them, and so I had a couple of comedians with disabilities. But the idea was that I would host a comedy show, and I would be the host. I would be the host.
What
And
year
the
was
thing
your
is,
comedy show that you did this?
2005.
Okay.
So
Do you remember any of the comedians that were on the show?
I can only remember the one woman. It was Nancy Becker Kennedy. I don't know if
Okay.
you know her.
I don't know her, no.
She was also like an actress, TV actress, and from LA.
Oh, wow.
She was in a power chair. There was a blind guy from the Bay Area that had a guide dog. I can't remember his name. I was trying to look for it. I couldn't find it.
Yeah.
But anyways,
But that's a
the
good idea to do. Okay, go on.
yeah. But what happened is that only a small handful of people knew that I was going to be doing the hosting of the comedy show. And so like during, like right before it started, I disappeared and went like kind of like a backstage. And the next thing you know, like the MC of the whole event says, and now our host for the show, here he is, Tut. And I come out with the King, the Steve Martin, King Tut song, and
Oh, that's rad.
and people are freaking out. And the only thing, the director of my agency, she knew, and she just told me, just make sure your comedians are clean. Like, there's nothing going on. I said, don't worry, that's not going to happen. I mean, I was worried a little bit, but I knew it wasn't going to come from me. It was like, because if it would have happened, I would have said, I told them not to do it. Like,
yeah, exactly. Deniability.
Right? I mean,
Deniability.
anytime it's a clean show, you say, I tell them not to, but comedians are comedians, right? Whatever. But it was a clean show. But people just, they didn't know, that I was a lot of people didn't even know I did comedy at all, and I didn't even know I really did comedy either that much. And so that was like another milestone, and I just said, this is fun. I'm gonna try to do it. Well, I didn't do it for another 4 years. I just never had the chance to do it. And so it was
it's hard fun. Though. It's hard to like find that world, Sometimes like,
I mean,
for me, because I know for me, my biggest problem was like I didn't know how to get from my couch to the TV. I didn't know how to get there. I didn't know the process.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So so then what happened, so that was, and then I went, my wife and I went to another national conference in 2009 in Brooklyn, New York, and so I did the talent show there, and there it was even bigger. There was 1,200 people there.
Holy wow!
And it was right at the where cell phones were just starting to come in, and I had just gotten this flip phone, right? And one of my comedy idols is Bob Newhart.
Oh,
I don't know if you ever watched.
Bob Newhart's
he does stuff on the phone, like he'll pretend somebody's talking on the phone and stuff.
I love it.
Yeah. So real quick, Tut, we actually watched the Bob Newhart show recently, and one of our favorite bits is Bob Newhart doing the phone call bit because he's so good at it.
Oh yeah, I mean, I was so inspired by him, so that's where I got. So I did a bit where I pretended that I got a call. I mean, and I was able to like program my phone so if I touched a certain button, the phone would ring. So right, right at the right time, I pushed the button and my phone rang. I said, "Oh, excuse me, I got a call here," and so I picked up my answered the phone, and I pretended that it was President Obama calling me, asking me for any recommendations for a dwarf ambassador to the White House. And I said, well, it's funny you should ask me. I'm standing in front of 1,200 little people right now. Let me see if I can ask them, hey, any suggestions? And, nobody really had any suggestions. And then the joke was, something like he said something like, "Well, I heard there's this guy named Wee Man, and would you think he'd be a good ambassador?" I said, "Oh no, he's a jackass." I don't know if you and I kind of blew it because I wasn't supposed to say jackass. I forgot at this show. But that was the show he was on. He was like the
yeah.
yeah.
I think if Wee Man heard that joke, he would love it.
Yeah. So that was my so I did that, and then what was interesting is that in New York there was a comedian, another dwarf comedian named Nick Novicki. I don't know if you ever met him. He's from L.A.
No.
Originally, he was in New York at the time, and he had just it was funny. Early on in the days when San Francisco, we used to have our national conference here. One time I was like one of the co-producers of the talent show. And so this Nick Novicki guy, he was trying to do stand up. He was horrible at it. And he wouldn't, he ran the light for like 3 or 4 minutes, wouldn't shut up.
Wow.
And then basically we ended up having to turn his mic off, just
ouch.
turn the mic off because he wouldn't,
Yeah.
Well, anyways, fast forward, he became a comedian and a pretty good one.
Okay.
And he had all sorts of connections in New York. And so he was going to have like an adults only show at the conference later in the evening. So I asked him, I said, "Hey, can I get a guest spot?" And he said, "Sure, I'll give you 3 minutes." And
3 minutes?
Yeah. So and he put me up first, and I figured, okay, now's my time to do my adult humor. And I got my firsthand experience of what it's like to fucking bomb, oh my God, it was horrible.
Oh,
I mean,
man.
it was the longest 3 minutes in my life.
Yeah, I guess you're lucky you got 3 minutes, not like 8 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, crazy, but I mean, the cool thing though was that on the show, the headliner was a guy that Judith, what's the name? Something Freelander.
Judith Freelander. Yeah. I did a show with him online recently.
Yeah, he was the headliner, and because I was sitting in front, and in back in the day when I started doing comedy, my thing was always to wear Hawaiian shirts, So I always I looked like a dwarf Don Ho, and so I'm sitting in front, and I also had for some reason I got back in the day, you had like a big watch on. I had this big watch, and so every like few minutes, and he was up there, he would ask me, "Hey, Don Ho, what time is it?" He kept on giving me grief.
Judith Freelander that said that?
Yeah, he was giving me grief the whole freaking time.
I was hilarious.
I said, okay, that was it for my comedy. I said, okay, I'm not doing it. I can't do this. After that bombing, I don't want to do this for a while. But in the meantime, though, I still had a sense of humor and stuff. And so, fast forward until 2019. So I went from 10 years.
Wow, 10 years.
I didn't do anything. And in the meantime, I play in a community band that we played the San Mateo County Pride Festival. And the MC of the Pride Festival was a person named Jesus You Better Work. I don't know if you know him.
Oh, I do know him. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And after our performance, he had these flyers, about a comedy show at the San Mateo County Pride Center that was coming up. He says, "Here, pass these out to your members, and come on over." And then so I went up to him. I said, I tried comedy a few times in the past, and I might be interested in trying it again. I said, "Would you happen to have any guest spots that I could get on?" He said, "Sure." So a couple months later, he put me on his show with a guest spot. There I think I had 8 minutes, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
And it was in an actual comedy show setting. It wasn't just a talent show. And so and that really really changed my life in a way. It got me. I was able. I was really impressed with all the comics. That's where I met Nicole Tran.
Amazing.
And and then there's a woman named Bernadette Locquette. she's from LA, but did some stuff on some TV shows,
Oh wow.
writer and stuff.
Okay.
And then I met a guy named Ashwin Bala. He's a local guy from here, and Jesus. And then the headliner guy was this gay guy named Samson McCormick. I don't know if you ever
I
heard
don't
of
think
him.
so. I don't. Doesn't sound
Yeah,
familiar.
he's a national headliner. He's a black
Okay.
guy and the weekend before he actually performed at the Oprah Winfrey Auditorium at the African American Museum at the Smithsonian. He did a one-man
Wow.
show, comedy show,
Wow. So
sold out.
he's a pretty big deal.
Big deal. He's been
Yeah.
traveling. He's been doing it for like 20 plus years.
Wow.
And so I got to go up right before him, which I thought they would just put me on first, get me out of
Yeah.
the way.
The new guy, get
But
the new guy out of the
they
way.
just put me on right before him. I'm like, wow. And I thought I did pretty well. I had the audience going and stuff, and I even wrote up some of my own lesbian jokes and stuff like that. That was pretty funny. Everybody's laughing about. And so then afterwards, I'm finally I'm hanging out with the comics, and it was my first time really actually hanging out with comics. And so I was asking people like, what do you think? And I asked Samson. I said, hey, you saw my bits, my act. I said, what do you think? He says, keep on going. You're gonna do good. You're gonna do well. So basically, getting that semi vote of confidence from him gave me the notion that, hey, this is what I'm meant to do. And so that's kind of got me going. And that's how it starts. That was almost 4 years ago when I did that.
Wow.
And
That's cool that Jesus, you better work put you on, because you were
really nice.
you were
He
just a guy that didn't really do
person.
you didn't really do comedy, and so he took a chance on you. That's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, and it was funny then. So after I did his show, then I started going to a couple open mics. It was like,
nice.
like I
you
did
do backwards again.
Yeah, I was backwards again. Yeah. I went to to Danny Detchie's Neck of the Woods. I did that.
Oh, I love Neck of the Woods.
Yeah, and I didn't like this. The stage is up.
Oh,
it was like several stairs, and
it's a big. It's
it
a
was
tall
like
stage.
Steps.
It was like climbing Mount Everest. I needed my own Sherpa to get up there, but
did you manage? Okay.
Yeah, and people helped me. Yeah, people helped me, and it was cool. And I invited some friends from work and stuff, people I knew, and it was fun. And I did one other show at the Little Theater it's called the Little Theater.
Our Little Theater, yep, in the Tenderloin. We love that place.
Yeah, with Danny, and I did that, and then the next thing I did was I did Rooster's new talent comedy competition, or not competition. Originally, just the talent showcase. I did the showcase.
We love Roosters too.
Yeah, and it was funny because I invited a bunch of friends. I had 9 people there, and so the more people you bring, the more time you give them. They give you, rather.
Yep.
And so I mean, but you never know what you're going to get when before you get there. And so it was funny because when they put the lineup up, they put it literally like 5-6 feet off the ground. I couldn't see it, so I had to have somebody. I said, "Hey, where's my name up there?" And they're looking down, and says, "Oh, Tut, you're last." I'm last, and I said, "Well, how many minutes do I have?" And they said, "You have 9." 9 minutes. I didn't have 9 minutes worth of material. I'm like, holy crap. And so I literally, on the fly, I was trying to remember some of the bits that I was kind of like working on a little bit, trying to, so I was working them as I was doing it. And right near the beginning of my set, I forgot, I got lost where I was in my order of, my bits. And I just was like a senior moment, and I just said, I can't think. And then all of a sudden, I said, it was like 2 minutes in. I said, well, I have 9 minutes, so I said, we're all starting over. So I started over again, and then I remembered exactly, what it was, what I did, and so that was fun. So I actually did 9 minutes my first time at Rooster, so that was I was like, whoa, that's pretty cool.
That's wild.
That is wild.
Yeah. And then I decided around the same time to enter the comedy competition for that year. And it was literally my 9th time on a stage ever. Wow. Yeah, I'm including all the other times I told you about before. Mm-hmm. And on my round, everybody's got years of experience and hosting and everything, right? I went up there and I came in 3rd place. And
nice.
And the top 5 would go on to the semifinals. And when at the end, when they take your picture with all the everybody that placed, right? Everybody else that on that stage had their own shows. They were hosting shows. They've been doing. They probably had been on stage 9 times that week. Here it was. It was only my 9th time, and and as I'm doing my set, I'm up there, and I had a few people in there. It's not a whole lot, but as I'm getting these laughs, and I'm like, oh my God, this is like the most incredible experience, comedy wise, that I can ever imagine. It was like, I almost had to I thought I was having like an outer body experience. I was just watching, myself doing this, but kind of like that dream thing that I was telling you about.
Awesome.
Wow.
And it was amazing. I honestly, I was so stoked afterwards that I didn't sleep for 3 nights. I was just so hyped up about it. Like, wow, this is amazing. To be able to do this. And so then, in the meantime, though, COVID's coming down the pike, right? It's kind of, and literally 2 weeks later, COVID hits, and that was it. They canceled the competition.
Yeah, you know what? I was supposed to be on the competition on April 1st, but they give you 5 free tickets for each contestant, and between Athena and I, we are bringing 14 people. And
oh my God.
I was gonna be the king of the world. I was gonna just beat everybody. Right. I was gonna be the best comic ever. But
I know
it never happened. It never happened.
Yep, it was so I was like, So then after that, that's when I started doing Zoom shows. And it was just basically to make contacts. I think that's where I met you, Sam. I think I saw you on. I can't remember the name of the show, but it was one of them. I remember.
Yeah, I think I met you on the Zoom era as well.
Yeah, and then a couple months later, I did about like 45 Zoom shows, and it was mainly to make connections, to get.
Oh yeah,
smart.
Absolutely.
That's smart.
And I was, I made it a point that I had to make so when I'm on the Zoom, you could tell I'm standing up because otherwise you wouldn't know that I'm a dwarf, and like, what's he talking about, all these dwarf jokes and stuff,
It's like funny because I don't know if you know Desiree Walsh. She was also a comedian on Zoom. She has a lot of jokes about being in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
But on Zoom, you can't see the wheelchair.
So everybody's sitting. Everybody was sitting.
So she starts every set by going, "Just to let you know, I am in a wheelchair. I'm not being an asshole." Whatever,
Right. Yeah, I'd have my computer camera like showing me, and I had like a step ladder that would show like I'm not as tall as my step ladder, like just for perspective, like that.
Yeah.
But so anyways, what happened was a few months later, my life totally changed, and that's when this is like where my story really comes into play, and that's when my wife was diagnosed with metastatic melanoma cancer in early July, and she was given 4 to 6 months to live. And that just blew me. I mean, both of those, but that just changed everything in the world. And, obviously I wasn't going to be doing any comedy, and, the whole focus, I mean, she wanted to fight it. It was like, we're not going to let this thing just take us and take her.
Right.
And
Yeah.
Yeah.
so it's during the pandemic. So other than going to
Right.
medical appointments, we didn't go anywhere pretty much, which is to a certain degree was, we spent a lot of time together that we normally would not have been able to do.
Well,
And
that's a blessing.
that was a part of a blessing. Um, and so then, um, she was fighting it, and she actually fought it for 16 months.
Oh
You
yeah.
And
said 4 to 6, and she fought it for 16.
yeah, 16 months. Yeah.
Oh
Wow.
yeah.
Wow, that's
And
amazing.
yeah, it was just, I mean, she was just such a determined person. And, you know, and I mean, she had a really good doctor at Stanford. And it was just,
Oh,
I mean, it was the most difficult time ever you can imagine. But,
Yeah.
uh, and then, uh, in the meantime, I didn't do any comedy stuff, but, I always, would be cracking jokes from time to time. And so then, in October of 2021, she became really, really sick. And her cancer had just it was just basically taking her, and she was in a lot of pain. And so I took her to Stanford Hospital. And that was the last time she was home. And she was there for 10 days. And and that's when her outpatient oncologist, he did a Zoom call with us on a Saturday while he was out walking the sidewalks of Atherton, or wherever he lives. And he just said, you know, the ending's near. He said, I don't know when. It could be a week, it could be a few days, it could be a couple of weeks, but this is it. There's nothing more we can do. And so I said, well, I don't want her going, at Stanford Hospital. I mean, it was just a difficult time. And so the doctor, her infant doctor said, well, there's this place called Mission House, which is a part of Mission Hospice in San Mateo County. And it's a private home, or it was a private home that they converted into a 6-bed inpatient hospice. And so I did everything I could. So I got her there, and she was there for 22 days. And what was good about it was I got to be there with her the whole time, because
oh, that's great.
Because it was more
they
distant, because it was less people and stuff, right?
yeah. And no, it's their philosophy. Stanford had, because of COVID, they had stupid visiting hours.
Oh,
You
I
know,
see. Yeah.
patients in bed A, which my wife was, your visiting hours were from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m.
Oh,
If
wow.
you're in bed B, it's from 1 p.m. to 7 p.m. I mean,
Whoa.
they even actually got an extra hour.
Oh
And they didn't
wow.
have to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning to get there at 8, that kind of stuff.
So
And
That is crazy. I
sad.
didn't even think
it was
about
just
that. You're
crazy.
right.
I said, no, we're not doing this. And so that's why, and it was such a tranquil place. It was just, the staff was, and they don't do any invasive things. They just make the person
Yeah.
comfortable and
Hmm.
that kind of stuff. And what was nice, in her family, got to come and visit her. Uh, and she actually she wanted to have a what's called a living memorial while she was
Yeah.
alive. And so uh, we arranged it to have like 30 of her good friends come by. We could only do 8 at a time because of COVID, but one day, just people just came by to talk to her, say goodbye to her, and she got to say goodbye to them. It was pretty amazing.
That's
That's that's
beautiful.
And
beautiful.
then after a couple of weeks there, things went south, and she slipped into a coma. And then she passed away, 6 days after that, in early November. And
Wow.
I thought I was, I had to be strong for her, and because she was a very strong person to begin with. But
Oh yeah.
and I was just, really thinking, okay, I'm strong. I've been strong. And then, but when she slipped into the coma, I lost it. And it was just it was just really difficult for me. And so after her passing, I was I was miserable. I mean, I just I couldn't think. I couldn't do anything. I basically went. I went home to my house, which was totally silent. And before we were. And by the way, I was married. We were married for 40 years. We were married for 40 years.
Oh my
And
gosh.
and so I always, there's always somebody, somebody else in the house, like, and I couldn't get out of bed. I mean, my neighbors would bring me food twice a day for 3 weeks. They would bring me food and stuff, and I would eat, and occasionally I'd watch a little TV, but I couldn't do much, and I just got to thinking I got to do something to get my life back because I can't be like this.
Yeah, and
And
that's
that's
what she would want you to do, like to get your life back.
yeah, yeah, and that's when I decided, you know what, I'm going to do my comedy. That is what gives me the joy. That's because she wanted me to be happy. That's the one thing she said. I want you to be happy in your life, and so that's what I did. I said, okay, I'm gonna. So I just got back and I started going to February 1st of 2022. I just started going to all the mics in the South Bay, in other places.
Oh yeah.
And then I connected up with Nina G regarding the Comedians with Disabilities Act, and she was really nice to put me actually in early March to put me as part of the show when they did the Alavita Comedy Club. So I actually, that was my first real big like show that I was able to do. I did some Brandon Lounge a couple times because that's near my house.
Yeah.
But and that's what started where I am now, and so that was what got me going. So that's kind of
Wow.
like my story of,
Yeah,
where
that's
I got,
amazing.
and so that's and a lot of people don't know it. When they first meet me, they don't have any idea. And for me, it's cool because doing my comedy because you know I'm gonna be 65 in November, and here I am hanging out with 20, 30, 40 year olds.
That's what I feel like, and I'm in my 40s, and I'm like, all these kids, man.
Oh, you don't know what kids are, dude. You're a kid. Oh my God, it's funny. And a couple comedians gave me a little grief from time to time, and I just told them, I just sat them down. I said, hey, how old are you? Oh, I'm 23. I am 40 years older than you, dude. I deserve some respect. So just, give me a break,
Just give it.
and people like, oh, I didn't know, he say, you don't look that old. Well, I feel that old sometimes, but
Then he tries to compliment you.
yeah,
That sounds about
but
right.
no, so it's, I mean, I enjoy it so much, and it just gives me such a purpose, and yeah, that's my life. And then subsequently, I right as I'm starting to get back on the comedy, I said I don't want to be my main thing is I don't want to be alone in this world. So then I said, okay, I got to start doing this online dating stuff, and because
Ooh.
I had heard, I mean, from the few shows that I was on before, and some of the Zoom stuff,
Well,
obviously
yeah,
people talk
comics
about it, but
talk
I,
about
I
it.
really
Yeah.
didn't know what the hell it was about until I started doing it. And then what was good about it was, I mean, there's some crazy shit, but I got
Yeah.
some new material that I would never have had at all. And so sometimes my sets are more about online dating than dwarf jokes, because it's like it's it's low hanging fruit, really.
Crazy out there. Oh
Yeah,
my
It is. It's
gosh.
wild. It's the Wild West
yeah,
out there.
Forget
it
that.
is. But it's fun. I mean, I've had some crazy situations, some not so good situations,
Yeah.
and but now things are going well. So
Great.
I'm pretty happy about that. So
Well, Todd, I do want to say I'm sorry for your loss, but
Mhm.
40 beautiful years, that's amazing.
Oh, what a lovely gift to give to both of
oh
you
yeah,
guys.
I mean she gave me the I mean my life. Yeah, I mean I have no regrets, no regrets, and other than the one thing I will say. Both my wife and I, we well, she was more of a workaholic than I was, but we worked really hard for a long time. And we put up, we scrimped and saved. We put off doing stuff, like vacations or, traveling and stuff. Cause we figured once we both retire, then we can just enjoy our golden years.
Yeah.
And my message to people is don't put stuff off because you don't know whether those golden years are going to be there. And that is the only one regret that I have, that we did a lot of nice things, wonderful things together. We, did some traveling and, but those golden years of where you're just living for the joy of living,
Yeah.
it never happened. So to me, it's, if you got a bucket list, start checking stuff off, even in your 20s, 30s, just check it off so you can say, hey, I did this. Because you don't know what opportunities you're going to have down the road.
That's amazing.
But
That's
other
an
than
amazing
that,
message.
yeah. But other than that, I mean, my life is, I'm enjoying life, and I mean, the other thing that a lot of people know, uh, and I'm not that I'm boasting or anything, but when
Oh,
I
just
was,
boast away. It's okay.
but okay, in my mid 40s, I had a midlife crisis. Where basically, I was driving this 1990 Honda Civic hatchback with no air conditioning, 4-speed, had no radio, had no nothing in it.
Wow.
It had like 100, almost 200,000 miles on it. I was ready to replace all the parts again for the second time, and I just told my wife, I said, I don't want to be driving this type of car, the rest of my life. And from the time I was a kid, I always wanted to get a Corvette. That was my dream, and I said, you know what? That's what I want to do. And so that's what I did. I went out and bought a 50th anniversary Corvette in 2003. And I had the car for a long time, and I enjoyed it. My wife didn't like it because the ride was very bumpy because it's low to the ground.
Oh yeah.
Plus the dashboard is really high, and so she'd have to sit on 3 or 4 pillows in order to,
Oh dang.
she just didn't like it. And
Yeah.
so after having it for like maybe out using it for like 8 or 9 years, I put it in storage. I stored it in my garage undercover, and didn't bother with it. It became a stacking table for all sorts of boxes and stuff. And so then after my wife passed, I said, I was in my garage. I said, damn, I got this Corvette here. What am I going to do? And I said, you know what? I'm going to take off all those goddamn boxes, and because I mean, I loved my car, and I said, this is going to give me happiness. This is going to give me joy and happiness. So, I sunk a bunch of money into it and got it. So that's why I have the car that I have, and it gives me, the joy of I enjoy driving it. And I mean, I kind of do it. I don't drive fast all the time. But for me, it's all about
Yeah, there's stoplights sometimes.
yeah. I mean, for me, it's knowing that I can go faster than most other people.
That's cool. I did not even know that you drove a Corvette.
Me
I have
either.
to see it next time I'm around
Oh
you.
yeah, you should. Well, you didn't look out when you were at my.
I mean, I see. I don't know it's yours
Yeah, we didn't
unless
really
unless
catch
it says like the license plate says Tut or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Was it?
Well, you would see. Yeah, it'd be the only one parked anywhere. If there's a comedy show, there's a Corvette parked
Okay,
down
well,
front.
next time
It's
I will look
mine.
for a Corvette. I'm at the same place
Yeah.
as you
Hell
are.
yeah.
That's
But
amazing.
I just love it. And then obviously other comedians joke about it. How I get lucky in it and all this other kind of stuff. Isn't the case or anything like that. But
Oh, so it's a running gag too. I didn't even know
Oh
that.
dang.
yeah. But so
Wow,
that's
Tut, you are amazing. Like you've lived all of your dreams. You've been on Capitol Hill. You've done stand-up
Yep.
comedy. You've had the love of your life. You've had your Corvette.
Yep.
Like I
Yeah.
love it. I love all of it.
So incredible.
So that's you have to live your life. And like I said, I feel so blessed that I other than that one regret of not doing stuff with my wife before we retired. That's life has been really good. So I can't complain. I can't complain at all.
Excellent.
So, anyway,
Excellent. Do you have any projects you're working on? Anything coming up or anything?
Yeah, actually, as a matter of fact, couple things I'm doing. Well, as you know, I have my Tutton comedy at Mountain Mike's in Union City. I have
Mhm.
comedy every Friday night, and on the second Friday of the month, I have my showcase. But all the other ones are open mics, and would love to encourage comics to come out. It's a great little place. It's a separate
Yeah.
room, so you don't have to worry about uh, saying anything anything bad too much.
Yeah, I've already
And
heard the worst possible things I could ever hear in that room. So.
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, there's been some things, yeah. And
That's
I
a
mean, I
different
get the
story,
question
though.
all, yeah, I get the question all the time. People are new to my mic, or is it a clean room? I said, no, just don't worry about it. And no, I mean, the one thing, a couple times there have been um, some people from the public. I get civilians coming there sometimes too, and
Woo, yeah.
one time a civilian brought like a 3-year-old little girl there,
Oh
and
no! Oh
they
Oh.
were sitting. I mean, they were they didn't like initially they were sitting kind of inside it, but then they were sitting sort of like just outside the
Oh my
entryway of the room.
god!
And I said, ma'am, please, if your daughter comes to you tomorrow and starts saying pussy, pussy, don't blame me.
Oh my gosh!
Oh, dang.
I it's not my fault.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, I
also
make fun.
pizza's good.
I mean, if I
Yeah,
was just some
basically.
random person and I was at a Mountain Mike's and there was a little comedy going on in the other room, I'd probably go in there.
Yeah, eating my
Yeah,
pizza.
go in there with your pizza and your soda and just hang out and watch comedy.
That's rad.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
fun.
it's
That's
really nice.
fun.
So I have that, and then last year, on November 5th was the 1 year anniversary of my wife's passing,
Mm.
and I I was early on, like in September, I was thinking, how am I going to get through that day? Because
Yeah.
I knew it was going to be it was going to be really really difficult. So then I got in my head this idea about what if I do a a fundraising comedy show for the hospice where she was
Oh
at,
wow.
to get the word out about the hospice, and
That's
to raise some money
great.
for them.
Yeah, that's
And so
incredible.
I approached them, and they were saying, oh, and how's this going to work? I said, I'm working on it. I think I can get to work. One, they wanted like a totally PG, no exceptions type of thing, because
Wow.
it's their agency that's being represented.
Right. If our
And
name's attached to it or whatever, yeah.
yeah. And I said, I think the way I'm going to put it together, I think it's going to be fine. It's going to be great. And so then I got a place in part of the city of Belmont. They have a historical house that has an art gallery in it. So that's where I had it held it, and and I had like 40 people there, and
Wow.
and people were. And what I did is yeah I had actually a picture of my wife like on the in the front, by where the stage was, and part of it I talked about her, and some of the amazing things that she did as an attorney. She was basically an attorney for people with disabilities
That's
for the court
beautiful.
system, and so I told about that, and then I told her some of the stories about her, some some jokes about some of her, she was like directionally challenged, and how 1 minute we're coming from Safeway, which is 2 blocks from my house. Next thing you know, we're in Gilroy, which is like 20 away from us, and things like that. I made fun, and
Yeah.
then the comedians were great, and and people, and what I did is I invited the staff um, from the hospice to come for free. I belong to a
Wow.
support group, grief support group, for people that that have lost their loved ones. I've invited them for free, and and I still made $2,000 for them.
That's wonderful.
And so
Wow.
that's what I'm working on this year. So November 5th, it's going to be in Foster City at the Foster City Rec Center. It's a Sunday from 2 to 4, and I'll have a flyer. I'll be posting it on the showcase. What do you call it?
Yeah.
Facebook showcase thing, and elsewhere. But so I'm doing that,
That's
and then
awesome.
also I thought, as I mentioned to you earlier, I'm turning 65 in November, and you only turn 65 once, right? And I
Yeah.
said, you know what? I said I want to do something different, special, and so I said, okay, I'm planning. I'm gonna have another fundraising show, but it's gonna be for my Little People group,
Okay,
and
yeah, that's
Yay.
good.
and and it's specifically going to be for the little people. There's a part of our group that's called the Owls, the older, wiser little people. It's called Owls,
The
Oh, I love
owls.
and
it.
it's going to be to benefit their programs under this organization, and it's going to be in San Jose on November 18th. My birthday's on the 19th on a Sunday, but this is going to be on a Saturday the 18th in the in the early evening, and I'm getting a live band, and it's going to be comedy and then dancing and one big party, and it's going to be a fundraiser for that group. So that's
Wonderful.
those are the things that I'm working on right now, and it's fun being able to do these kinds of things. To work and produce shows. I think I mean, it's helped me elevate my game.
Yeah.
I think, and it's also, I mean, yeah, it's given me so much confidence that I mean, I've always been kind of confident, but I would always be a little bit nervous right before I'd go on, but now, no, it doesn't, whenever I can go, before I didn't like to go up first, in any showcase or anything. Put me up there. I don't care. If you want
Yeah.
me to first, I'll be first. If you want me to do other things, whenever, that's fine. So,
I love
anyways,
it.
that's kind of the things that I've been working on. So,
That's
uh,
awesome. I like that. I like that
yeah,
you're not just like doing shows to do shows. You're doing shows to make a difference in people's lives.
Mm-hmm.
all right. Well,
Amazing.
to be in all honesty, though, I mean, whatever shows I do, whether it's different mics, and I would love to get, you know, hint to all the producers out there. I would love to be on your shows. Just I mean, people know who I am. You know who I am, right?
Yeah,
And
I know who you are.
but for me, it's all about awareness.
Yeah.
Disability awareness and dwarf awareness. There's only a small handful of comics in the Bay Area that have what I call visible disabilities,
Mm-hmm.
and there's only right now there's only two dwarf comedians. Me and Steve Danner from Napa, and we kind of travel in different because he's up north and I'm south. We travel in different circles in terms of shows and mics and whatever. But to me, every time I'm up there, I'm trying to educate people
Hell
to
yeah.
say, hey, yeah, a person like a little person like him can be funny and be just like anybody else.
Yep.
So
Absolutely.
that's kind of my message, and that's what I do.
That
So
is awesome. That is awesome. Thank you, Tut. Thank you so much for joining us and just talking about
Yeah.
your life so much. It was amazing.
thank you. Well, thank you for having me. I was. This is my. By the way, just so everybody knows, this is my first podcast that I've ever done. So I'm. I'm.
Yay.
Nice, nice.
Woo.
I'm
Well, you've
honored to be
already
on
you.
yours.
Oh, go ahead.
I said I'm honored to be on yours, and you guys are terrific. I mean, I appreciate all your support, and you make a lovely couple too. So
Oh,
Oh,
thank
thank you. I
you.
was gonna say you mastered it. You mastered it already. The podcast.
anyway,
Do you wanna plug your social media before we get out of here?
Mhm.
yeah, I'm just at Tut McCullough at Tut, and then McCullough McCulloh at Instagram. That's it. I'm not big on. I need help with social media and that kind of stuff. Yeah, I don't know.
We all do.
Yeah,
It makes
we
yeah.
all do.
Sometimes it's hard, but I am definitely on Facebook a lot.
Okay, cool.
That's where I post stuff on. I post everything about my shows and my mics on
Heck
Bacon,
yeah.
South Bay, Sacramento one, and the North Bay one.
All the
So
comedy groups. Yeah. Do you have a Tutton
yeah,
comedy? Do you have a Tutton comedy Facebook page?
no, no, I don't know. I haven't figured that out yet.
Someday you
Wish
will.
I might have, like, actually I was able, I hired a publicist that she does all my flyers. Like, that's
Oh,
one thing about my
great.
shows,
Okay,
about all
nice.
my showcases. I change the flyer all the time. I have the different themes for each month
Oh,
in terms of,
nice.
different, whether it's, it could be like a theme in terms of the types of comics. It could be like, like for
A season.
season, like I had a thing about when it was Easter. I had a thing about rabbits. It was a show about rabbits.
I love it.
And things like that. I mean, different things, just crazy, just funny things. I thought, because I always like to change things up, keep it
Hmm.
interesting, and most of all, just try to make it fun for everybody.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
And
absolutely.
for the most part, I mean, my shows, I mean, the comics just kill it all the time. They really
Hmm.
come through for me, and everybody, sometimes the crowd's not quite as big. I mean, Mountain Mike's is kind of small venue, but
Yeah.
uh, I've had as little as three, and I've had as many as like 35 or 40 in a
Oh, I can
small
imagine 40 comics in that
Oh
area.
my gosh.
not 40 comics, but I mean actually audience people
Audience. Oh, wow, that's
on my
cool.
shows. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I and a little secret, in small venues, the more people are and the more people that laugh, it's more contagious.
Oh
Yeah.
Laughter is.
yeah.
I mean, my very first show that I did it at Mountain Mike's in Campbell. It's a very similar situation, small room. I mean, it was just lit the whole night. That place was just lit. Like, I have never seen anything lit. It was just amazing. So,
That's great.
eh, anyways,
That is awesome. That is awesome. Super cool. Yeah, go find Tut, go find his open mic at
Hmm.
Mountain Mike's and go support that. It's
Oh
super
yeah.
fun. We were there recently. And as
yep.
far as I go, you can find me across the board at Funky Sam Medina,
And I'm at She Shines for You, all spelled out, no numbers.
and everything else is at Hypothetical Comedy. Awesome, Tut. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having me. Thanks.